What's up, Proaye fans? I'm your host, Proayegames, where we learn from A to Z. And today, we're looking at the new latest patch of Splatoon 3, which is 9.3.0, which I'm pretty excited for. Anyways, let's see the changes. First up, we have increased the speed of shots by approximately 3% and extended the flight distance on Smush-O-Matic, Splattered Shot Jr., and Aerospray, which is going to be real helpful for them, especially Smush-O-Matic, which is a very short-range weapon, which I'm glad all three of them are going to be a little bit better at fighting with range. Next up is NZAP, which is movement speed while firing is now about 5%. Reduce the scatter of shots while on the ground by approximately 5%, which is going to be real helpful for this weapon. I don't use this weapon very often. Next up is Nova, which finally is getting a buff, thank God, which is reduce the scatter of shots while jumping by approximately 33%, which is not going to do very much, but I take it. It's better than nothing, Proaye fans. Big swing roller. Slightly expanded vertical swing collision detection with players to make it easier to hit, which is basically going to make it easier to land your vertical attack, which I'm glad Big Swing is finally getting its vertical attack better, which is going to be really helpful. Next up is Paintbrush, which is shortening the interval between continuous swings by approximately 1 of 30th frames of a second, which is going to be really helpful because Paintbrush ain't fast enough, which is really going to help it attack even faster, which is a pretty slow weapon. Next up is the mini Splatling. Reduced the time required to charge fully by approximately 1 of 20th frames of a second. With the change, the time until the first level of charge ends is also reduced by approximately 1 of 30th frames of a second, which is going to basically mean that it's going to shoot a lot faster, which is going to be pretty good for mini Splatling. I don't use it very often, but I might use the Zinc Mini a little bit more often. And the regular to try them out tonight in my region, which I am in America. But if you're not in America, it will come out tomorrow at y'all region. But anyways, next up, Heavy Splatling. Increase the fire generation by approximately 11%. Reduce the time required to charge fully by approximately 1 of 20th of a second of frames. With this change, the time until the first level of charge ends is also reduced by approximately 1 frame of a 30th of a second, which is also going to shoot very fast, which is going to be really good. I don't use Splatlings very often either. I don't use them like that either. Next up is the Dabbles, which was, if you didn't know, it was my first ever main in Splatoon 3, which is increase the speed of shots by approximately 3% and extend the flight distance, which is basically very similar to the other change with the shooters, which is going to be really helpful, and that's a huge change for the Dapples. I'm excited to try them out. Next up, splat dualies. Slightly expand the collision detected with players of shots fired from normal per poster to make it easier to hit opponents. There is no change to this fact that collision detection is greater for shots fired after a dodge roll, which is going to be helpful for the weapon, I think. Next up, recycle umbrella, which it really needed a change to another weapon. Next up is slightly expanded the width of spray droplets created by shots. Reduce the amount of ink consumed, which is fire shots by promiscuously 14%, which is going to make it a little bit better at painting. That's a pretty good change. It is pretty bad at painting, but I don't think it's going to do that much, to be honest, Proaye fans. And finally, we get pencil nerfs. Woohoo! Which is slightly decrease the width of spray droplets created by shots, which is basically going to make it paint a lot worse. Which is a pretty good change, but I don't know how much yet until I test them out, Proaye fans. And no, the cab. They nerfing one of my favorite weapons, Proaye fans, which is waiving the time required for movement to begin when lunging forward with the charge swipe by promiscuously 1 of 30th frames of a second, which is only the launch attack. That's good news, actually, because it's only hurting that, because it's too good, to be honest. And the droplet created by the ink wave of the horizontal slashes by promiscuously 12%, which, to be honest, Proaye fans, I really like the weapon, but at the same time, I get it why they nerf it, because it's too good at painting. And two, it attacks a little too fast with the other attack, the lunge attack. But I think it's going to be fine, to be honest, Proaye fans. Okay, they made some changes to specials also, which is next up is Ultra Stand, which is increase the damage dealt by the explosion at the point of impact when the stamp is thrown in the falling ways. Which basically, I think they're trying to do is try and make it better at handling the weapons, which hopefully that's what they're aiming for. Next up is increase the damage dealt to opponents near the center of the explosion from 60 to 220. Increase the damage dealt to opponents farther from center of the explosion from 30 to 60 seconds, which is good. Woohoo! Which basically means they're making the front mode a lot better. Which, thank God, I love that special. Especially I use Viper a lot. Which recently I haven't because I got to 5 stars. But I want to go back to play it to try this out. I hope it's enough, Proaye fans. Next up, Splashdown. Increase the radius ink by the explosion by promiscuously 11%, which is going to be really good. Okay, next up is Zuka. We finally get nerfs of Zuka, Proaye fans. Woohoo! Which is for the suspension at the point of impact. Reduce the damage dealt to opponents farther from the center of the explosion. That's what I mean. Proaye fan explosion to 35 damage, which is pretty good change. The damage dealt to opponents near the center of the explosion remains 53%. Which basically it makes the hitbox, I think, a little smaller. Shorten the generation by approximately 1.5 seconds when not equipping special power, which basically means that it ain't gonna last as long. Proaye fans, and the effect gained from equipping the max number of special power gear ability will not change. So basically, they're trying to aim for make the hitbox, I think, a lot smaller, or a little smaller. So, which is pretty good change, because Zuka is very annoying to go up against, which I'm glad they finally did that. Proaye fans, now save the best for last. Special weapons, special points. Which first off, Octobrush will be 200 from 190 points to get the Zipcaster. Next up, Imperi Splat Dualies went from 200 from 190 to get, which makes it easier to get Splashdown. Dowser Dualies FF, which is 200 through 190, which is going to be easier to get Killer Wow. Woohoo! Recycle will get 200 through 190 points, which is easier to get Bubble. S-Blast will get Nerf, which is 190 to 200, which is going to be pretty good change because that weapon is very good and is very popular. But it's not going to do very much. It's just going to make it not get as much Booyah Bombs, that's all, Proaye fans. Last but not least is Sniper Rider, which is also known as Pencil, which will be 210 through 220, which, woohoo, pretty good. Because that means we get other options to use as cooler besides Pencil, like Zap, maybe, or Edit, or maybe even Dynamo. I don't know. But we will see how it will work out. But I think Pencil will still be good, to be honest. And that's all the changes, Proaye fans. I hope you guys enjoyed the changes. Until next time, Proaye fans. And I hope you have a good day.